Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Anthony Guardia. This is the Boys and Girls Club of Metro North. Coming from, I think this is going to be the first podcast we send to everybody, all our donors, all our members, all our parents, coming from the brand new podcast studio at the Boys and Girls Club of Saugus. And it is for an amazing reason, because we are celebrating Women in Construction Week with one of our all-time favorite companies, AmCon. And before I introduce everybody here, I just want to say thank you to this company because they're the ones who built this place that we're in. So when they walked in, it's funny, we told the kids today was going to be a light day, not as much programming, and we still had quite a few kids who came still. And it's a reflection of the quality of the work that AmCon does. And we're so happy to have you as partners and friends. But let's start with the important things. Who are you? Why are you here? And what brought you here today? So we'll go right to left. We'll start with Kayla.
Thank you, Anthony. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So who are you?
So my name is Kayla Nassar. I am the CEO of AmCon. And we are thrilled to have the opportunity to speak here on the podcast.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right. And who are you?
Hi, I'm Allie Parker. I'm a senior project manager at AmCon, and we're just here this week. It's a big week for us women in this industry. We wanted to come talk a little bit about that, our role, how we're integrating ourselves in there and having those others around us rally around us and support us.
Yeah. I'm Kurstin Reuschel. I'm a senior estimator at AmCon, and just mirroring what Allie had to say, we're super excited to just celebrate this week and kind of hype up the future generation of women in construction.
And it's very cool because you guys, AmCon, and Kara, who's not here with us, but she's outside the room just staring at us. But our friends from AmCon really tried to get a wide array of different people who do different jobs. So I went right to left. I'll go left to right this time. Tell us what you do. What does a senior estimator do? Recently promoted to senior estimator, right? Congratulations.
Ish. It's been a couple years.
Oh, very well.
So my day is usually a little bit of managing other estimators and seeing the quality of estimates that go out.
Now,
the
what
door.
does an estimator do? Like, just to back up. Like, so if I've never heard of an estimator, what do I do?
So we bid work, we budget work, so we figure out how much it costs to do your project, like this one. Kevin actually did this project. So we figured that out. We talked to the subcontractors to see what each respective trade costs and then what our cost of work is as the general contractor. And then we package it all up in a pretty little package, give it to you, the client, and you say, this looks great, or I think we're going to have to figure out how to bring this down. And then we do what my favorite thing in the world is. I say that sarcastically. We value engineer, and we figure out ways to bring the project to a budget that the client can manage.
Mm-hmm. And your process is coming from, you're getting drawings from a designer or an architect, going through, quantifying, seeing what's in there, working with the subs too. Use the quantity of materials and all of that to price it and get them together.
That kind of segues. What's a senior project manager do?
So after Kurstin is done estimating it and selling it to the client, and we win the job, so she'll estimate it, present it, we'll win the project, and then once we do, she'll hand it off to me. I'm on the operations side. So we'll work to get subcontractors contracted. So at AmCon, we don't self-perform any work. We hire everybody from the plumber to the painters to furniture installers. So I work to get all of those guys on board. I get their information. I help understand what they're going to install, make sure that is correct in relation to the plans and specs. Myself, along with an APM and a super. The super's in the field.
And what's an APM?
An assistant project manager, so my right hand. We work together, getting from the subs what they're going to install, work together with the super who's in the field, coordinating when they need materials, schedule, timing, to get it all built and put together. And throughout that process, weekly, we meet with the design team and the client, check in with them, make sure we're doing it just as they want it. And then also the subs, coordinating with them, making sure they're putting it in place per plans and specs, and then ideally turning it over within the time and budget we said we were going to.
That's wonderful. And Kayla, you are the fearless leader at AmCon, the CEO. What do you do? What does the CEO of AmCon do?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
No idea.
I would say that my everyday is leading and serving others. But from a company level, I think it's really strategy, overall direction of the company. Where is it going? How are we going to get there? I like to say my job is future-proofing AmCon.
That's a great line.
Yeah. Being nimble, looking around the corners, making sure that we're up on our technology and innovation, and, something new that I'm kind of into right now that I'll be talking about with our folks soon will be AI. How will that impact our business, and where can we integrate it, and what does that look like for AmCon? And I think, the biggest thing for me is people. Are we growing? Are we leading? Are we developing? And so it's such an honor to sit in front of Kurstin and Allie, because not only are they powerhouse women in construction, I've also worked with them in some capacity in our prior life at Shawmut, where the three of us have come from. And so it's really cool to see 3 females in 3 leadership roles, because as you will know or may not know, construction is comprised of 9% females. And so I am really honored to be among the 9% of those females that, lead in a way that's positive and making change in the industry.
You're right, because I think one of the reasons this week is so important to us, because it is Women in Construction Week, but the idea behind it, I think, is that there are a lot of fields. And we just see right now, right? So the e-sports arena is open. And the lack of women in e-sports or in video games is incredibly low, but they're just as good. Especially games now are not just like the usual, what they were when we were growing up of jumping. There is a lot that goes into it, and women bring a lot to the table. So when you talk about Women in Construction Week and building the amount of women involved in these fields, it really is an expansive discussion on every field that does not see enough gender diversity. Now, with that said, let's bring it back to that. How did you get to your position? Because I have to imagine it was probably harder because you were a woman. And then how did you get here? And if you can kind of tell us, what kind of advice would you give to young people, specifically young women, to try to get to the role you are?
Yeah, so what advice would I give to other women in construction, but also aspiring to be in construction? And I would say construction kind of lightly, right? Because I think of it as an industry, architectural, engineering,
estimating,
construction.
Project management, yep.
I think first and foremost is be your own best friend. Because as women, we can be self-deprecating and also have that imposter syndrome that, I'm 99% qualified, but there's 1% that I'm not. And so it's just statistics, right? So if you have a guy or a male that's my age, the same qualifications as me, and they go out for an opportunity, a job, a podcast, a whatever it may be, they're going to sit in that chair a lot differently than I would. It's just what it is. And so it's how we are made up as humans. And so I think being mindful of that and really leaning into being your own best friend, because at the end of the day, no one's youer than you, and you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. And so you only you can control that narrative. And so, really, really root yourself on, because we can do it. We have done it. And just because the statistics are against us doesn't mean anything, right? Like, we're going to go.
No, so true.
My favorite things about being in the construction industry is, I'm breaking down barriers. We're breaking down barriers. We're showing others what's possible, right? So do we come from a place of scarcity, or are we going to be an example and, really lean into the opportunity that this industry and many others are facing. So the more women that get a seat at the table, the more opportunities that we create, the more men that stand on the mountaintops for us, the more women we'll get at the table, the more women that we'll see having the opportunities in construction and, industries alike. So
we will, I'm going to, I guess, interject here, and we'll go to you guys in 1 minute, but I just think that's such a good point because I have it a little bit later, but I'll just ask it now. The corollary to the advice is what can men and young men do to be allies and, to use your words, be the lion at the mountaintop to help out?
Yeah, I think that's critical in this discussion and any discussion that I would have and we have collectively as a group and mentorship we'll talk about later, but it's finding someone to stand at the mountaintop, right? And as, our fellow male counterparts, we need you. We need you to speak up for us. We need you to mentorship. We need you to advocate for us. We need you to create that path. Someone once told me, you can go on the road traveled, which you can envision a highway with all the signs and the lights and it's paved and there's great direction. Or you can go down the road less traveled, and the road's not paved. There's not a lot of light. There's no directions telling you where to go. But that's that male figure that says, like, Allie, this is the path, right? It may not be there, but I know, I recognize you. I see your strengths. I see where you win. And here's what I'm going to do to help you get there.
Sometimes I call them to task too, honestly. Very often I'm the only woman in a meeting with a bunch of men. And, I'm asked a question, I'm leading the meeting, I'm making a point, explaining how we're going to approach something, what we're going to do. And sometimes when it's crickets, I know this is very likely something me and my super discussed moments ago or prior to the meeting. And I'll almost just be like, do you remember when we just spoke about that? Do you agree? What would you say? And then they can support me in that and being like, yeah, absolutely. We did talk about that. She does know that. So I think just backing us in situations where it is silent or where there is, you just even saying, she's correct. Yes, we discussed that. I, support her. And that's she's right in what she's saying.
Well, true. Well, and Allie, how did you get to where you are?
Yes. So I grew up, I wanted to be a journalist and I wanted to go to school and I did. I applied and went to college for journalism. One of my favorite movies growing up was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. So I just wanted to work for a Cosmo magazine, 17, be very female empowered, write articles about women's stuff, I guess. And then, so I was going to go to school for journalism and work at the gym and fold towels because I thought those would go hand in hand. And
awesome.
Yeah, I thought that would be perfect. So I'd be getting super fit and then be writing and going to school, be making money.
And inspired.
Yeah. Just and I'll have exposure to all kinds of, females and just empowerment things. And then I did not get the job at the gym. So apparently they did not think I could fold towels, which I can, in case I've learned many different ways, but I did not get the job at the gym.
That was the next question, was
yes,
we had a full
yes,
towels.
Yeah, no. And, but I did get a job at the Guggenheim building, which was the construction Phelps placement office.
Yep.
I went to Colorado State University. And what that office did is they helped graduates. You actually took a class in my program. It was an entire semester, and it was all about building a resume, interviewing, the whole process of how to go about getting a job. They actually make you do an internship or a work study. So I worked for that department. And through that process, they hold career fairs in the spring and the fall. And so I helped set that up, helped be a part of it. And I just was so surprised that I'd go to the career fairs and there was 75 companies with booths. And I'd never seen women in those roles. In my mind growing up, I just had always had it seemed to me as more of a male-focused field. But I saw a bunch of women in the room. They were doing all different kinds of roles, from marketing to project management to estimating to field supers. And I was so inspired by seeing the just different roles you could be a part of. And so I was really encouraged by that there'd likely be a place here for me. That, and I'm very opinionated, so in my writing, I was doing a lot of opinionated writing when really it needed to be more factually based. But I was like, no, this is like, I have so much to say about all this. So I found in this industry too, like it's very knowledge based, obviously, but just felt like it was more of a fit for me and my personality too, which is kind of random to think that journalism versus this would be a better fit, but made the switch.
No, that's wonderful. And if there were young people here, what would you tell them? What should they do if they want to get into construction or get into your field or follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, so my program required you to do an internship. You had to do 500 hours of work experience or a 6-month internship, and they actually supported you taking that semester from school to do that. So I would just say if you're able to do any type of internship or even like summertime work with that. I know friends that are like maybe interning for an HVAC company. I started by counting outlets for an electrical company. I worked in the estimating department. So just to try to submerge yourself in that way. Habitat for Humanity, I got involved in that, and that kind of connected me with some other people, both on the construction side and just in that field. So just looking out there for opportunities to build, opportunities to get in the field and meet different people, I would say.
There's also a really cool program that I am on the board of, but in the process of resigning and handing the torch to Kurstin, called ACE Mentorship Program. So they have chapters all over the United States. This one being the Boston chapter. I've been on the board for many years now, and they, help teens get involved and be in the know in the architectural, engineering, and contracting space.
That's very cool. All right, well, then let's go over to Kurstin. So how did you get into the estimating field? And what advice would you give people who want to get into it?
I think first I'll start with the advice. And I would say anybody interested in construction really just needs to be open to saying yes to opportunities. Because you never know what's behind the next door if you're open to it. And so how I ended up where I am, similar to Allie, I was a journalism major in college. So I wanted to, I don't even really know. I think I wanted to be a snowboarding journalist in my head. Like I wanted to do that. And then I graduated and newspapers were dying. And it was a changing industry. So I had moved to Boston and I was like, I'll just do anything. I'm open to whatever. And I ended up, through word of mouth, kind of got a job at Shawmut as an admin. And I had many advocates there that saw something in me that kept pushing me. And I actually resisted it for a very long time because I was like, I don't think this is the industry for me. I don't know. And continually just got pushed and pushed. And I finally was like, okay, fine. I guess I'll see what this has to offer. And I actually was in project management for a little while. And I thankfully I actually had a senior project manager who was also a woman who was an amazing advocate and helped me kind of find myself in construction. But then a need arose at the company in estimating. And I, again, just said, okay, sure, I'll try something else. Like, I've just always been open to whatever the world presents to me, and ended up in estimating and found that I really liked it. Estimating has deadlines, journalism has deadlines. And so
Never get away from those due dates.
I love a due date.
That's what everybody says, right?
I love deadlines because it keeps the pressure on, and fulfilling a deadline feels so good.
I think everybody kind of talked about the idea of having a mentor and also being a self-advocate. I know one of the advice I give a lot of the young people here, but a lot of the young women here is you have to be your own advocate. And so, especially with Women in Construction Week and thinking about being a woman in construction, can you talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the struggles you've dealt with, things that you've had to do to advocate for yourself? And then with that said, you just talked about mentors. Kind of on the flip side of that, times you have reached out for help and mentors who have helped also be that advocate for you and helped bring you along. And any advice you can on how to find a mentor or just getting involved with somebody.
When I first graduated, I started in marketing, actually in construction. I put together proposals, did the more BD side of things. I really, really liked that, and still do. But while I was putting those together, I was like, putting together the site plans, putting together the plan of the project, and we'd hand it off to, when we would get it, hand it off to the ops side of things. I was very, hey, are you going to do it the way that I planned this? Like, are you going to do, like, did it end up, is this how you're going to do this? And then, like, is this how much this costs? And then are you going to pick this guy? And it was a little bit, they were like, yeah, maybe, but also, like, this is my part of it. And so I think I was very, like, hesitant to feel that I was so focused on this and hesitant to think, like, I could actually run this, I could take this over, I could put this plan together and, like, truly do it. So with that, at my first company that I worked at, when you estimated it and you built it, that was kind of their structure. So you did have a little bit more of that, like, you knew how it all came together. So building it and having it come together, it was a little bit easier because you had it from start to finish. So going to them and saying, hey, I really, like, I did put this together, but I actually want to try to take it to the next step, to the other side, was really, really tough. But I was a little bit afraid. I was like, what if I don't, like, what if I'm not great at this? Can I still have that opportunity to go back, like, just in case? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. Like, we'll start you with a small one. Like, just do it. You're here, you're asking. And I had a female mentor, and she was like, I would listen to her, overhear what she was saying on the phone. And that was just so empowering, because I was like, wow, just the way she held herself, the questions she asked, how she, like, called people to task, and was very, like, very professional, but very demanding of both men and women in the field. That was really inspiring. And she really encouraged me to, like, when I'd be like, hey, is this right? Like, I feel like this guy kind of was giving me a hard time, and that wasn't right. And she's like, no, you're correct. Call back. Like it was so good to have her, like, sit next to me, hear what I was saying and thinking, and me sit next to her and have that same experience. So she really encouraged me to really take it to the next step. And even though it was different for my role, still within the same industry, and just pushed me to try something new and different, which was really, really great. So I think mentors and people like that come to you in really different ways. And sometimes you get an idea in your head, and you just have to be brave enough to just go for it and ask the question and try it. And it might not be successful. Like, I definitely have had my projects and my moments where I'm like, oh, I missed the boat on that. Or, yeah, I really didn't prepare for that. Or I missed an inspection. I didn't think of it. I learned from it the next time. So that's been something that's tough. It's tough to make a mistake and have to come back on that. But you learn for the next time. And then more recently, was working with someone, and she was, I think this needs change. What about this? What about this? What about this? And I said, yeah, I have this idea in place. Okay, I want to do this. Yeah, I think this is how this should work. We're going to get there. We're going to do this. And she just was like, know your worth. Like, you're correct in your thinking, and, like, you're not there yet, but just know that what you're saying is correct. I believe in you, and just, like, keep pushing. And it's hard sometimes to get what you think, the procedure in place that is needed to get it done, but just advocate for yourself and keep pushing through, even when it's hard, even when people, I don't know, sometimes when I try to put new procedure or processes forward, I feel like people are, like, thinking I'm, like, the nag, or the one that I'm like, this is so rigid and so oriented and so procedural, but I'm like, I know, but, like, if we do it this way, we can work together, and then everybody understands it. So it's hard to be that person sometimes in the room that's like, you didn't follow this exactly as I outlined this, but if we could do that, it would be better for everybody. So it's just tough, but.
No, but I think you make a good point. And then, Kayla, you probably see this more just in your role as CEO, but, like, how do you be the advocate for yourself and be the advocate probably, again, in a very male-dominated world where, I have to imagine you've run into situations where, somebody's just like, you don't know what you're talking about because, I'm a man who's done this for 30 years and you're a young woman in this field. How do you deal with that? And have you had mentors who have helped you deal with that?
Yes. So that's a great question. And talk about women standing on the mountaintop and leading the charge and being in your corner. I have to give it to Kara Cronin, who's outside the door that we keep talking about, that put these questions together and orchestrated this whole thing. I think it's worth the mention because it's not always the people on the front lines that make things happen. And she's someone that has totally bolstered AmCon in a way that I personally know I couldn't have. And without her help, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you, Kara. We love you. Someone told me that a mentor is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And so, as you think about mentors and, where you are and where you want to be, I would look for that person to where you want to be. And sometimes they fall in your lap and sometimes they don't. And sometimes you need to make an ask, right? Hey, will you be my mentor? Because that person will, without a doubt, make or break the next step you take, or the next place that you go, or the next challenge that you face. But I, just kind of backing up a second to what Allie had shared and the question you had asked, you're a young female, like, what do you know, right? Or why would you put that process in place, or, whatever it is. Hey, you started as an admin, Kurstin. How'd you, I get the question, how'd you get here? And I always, I think a big piece of advice that's so important is changing your relationship with failure and adversity. Because if you can redefine what failure means, failure means them one step closer to opportunity, or failure means one door closes, another door opens. That really changes the dialogue, or your mental dialogue when someone says, well, what do you know? Or how'd you get here? Or it's, we need to get really comfortable with failure, because failure is, without a doubt, the staircase to success. So unless you fail, and then you fail again, and again, and again, just the other day, I came home, I told my wife, geez, I just feel like I got sucker punched in the gut 7 times. That was the feeling I had in my belly. And I just said, yesterday ended last night. It's just another step. And so I think that we, particularly as females, need to change the dialogue with failure, because failure is not a bad thing. If you don't try and you don't fail, well, you're going to be talking about the same thing that you've been talking about for the past 5 years. And so, I think that that's paired with courage. Courage is so much more important than confidence. As women, we walk into a room, we think we need to have confidence. Walking in the store today, you get the butterflies, and you sit down and you get nervous, but you don't need confidence for today. You don't need confidence to go for the promotion. You don't need confidence to go into the interview or have that hard conversation or to pick up the phone call. It's courage. It's the courage to start, right? And so if you have the courage and you build yourself up and you talk to those butterflies like they're your friend, well, then the confidence comes, right? Because how do you get confidence without the courage? And so I think it's really important to talk about, just change that dialogue with failure or defeat, because then, if you can start to resync what that means to you, well, boy, every opportunity is a good one. And so then you just keep facing it. And so that's what I do. And every day, up until 20 minutes before I got in here, it's just a consistent conversation with yourself.
And the people that look at us and say you're young, like, oh, you're young, I've been doing this for 30 years, for 40 years. I just always am like, okay, well, are you going to be doing this for another 45 years? Teach me. I'm here now, so I want to learn from you. You do know it. You have been here. So I, just because I'm young, just because I'm female, I know you've been doing it, I know you've got experience. I'll probably learn it from you, maybe pivot a little bit, but tell me what to do. Teach me, I'll teach you. We've just got to work together to not be afraid to ask the questions, and then just be yeah, you have more experience, but I'm here now. So
You're absolutely right. What would you tell somebody, especially a woman or a young person who, how to advocate for themselves and, how to find that mentor who'll help them get there as well. I think it's two sides of the same coin to a certain extent.
To what I said before, being open to your path isn't set for you. You can make whatever path you want, and your decisions of being open or being closed are going to affect that. So I did not expect this to be my life, to be honest, but I'm so happy that I let people kick me in the butt along the way. And I guess for finding a mentor and how to advocate for yourself, it's really just, if I've learned anything at AmCon, is growing, whether you want to or not, is inevitable. And just accepting it is, once you accept it and just roll with those challenges and accept the feedback from other people, it's only going to benefit you. So I guess just being.
But what is like that best piece of advice? And Kurstin, I don't mean to speak for you, turn around, but for you, it's just get involved. Just do it. Do something, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the best advice that I think, we keep talking about Kara, but Kara has given me some of the best advice that I've ever had.
That's amazing.
What she told me is also like, stuff's going to happen in your life, right? Whether it be at work or at home, and don't get stuck in the swamp. Like, don't let other people bring you down or you fall into the swamp.
So good. It's so good.
Gosh, Kara.
Allie, do you have, I know it just felt like a more proper segue there. Do you have, what was like the single best piece of advice or any advice? I don't want to, it's hard to just say the best piece.
I hope this comes out the right way, but I sometimes I have to be reminded that it's just work. I feel like at the heart we're all people. We all have lives. We're all, my intentions are always the best. I never, I'm always trying my hardest, doing my best. I feel like I'm so hard on myself. And people have said that to me, you're so hard on, you're harder on yourself than other people are on you. Because I've come to my current manager and I said, oh, I'm so mad at myself. Hey, I didn't do this right. And it's this is just work. You did a great job. You learned from it. You're going to do better next time. So I think it's just, put everything you have into it and just remember that ultimately you'll get there, you'll try again, you'll fail, you'll get back up, and you'll get to do it again. So I need to remember that sometimes, because sometimes I get so hyper-focused on it and I lose sight of it. So my team's there for me. They rally around me. I'm not alone. I'm not doing this alone.
But, on that note, I'd like to think, a part of that, though, is what makes you successful is the idea to everybody else. It's, a small typo, who cares? To me, in my head, it's oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake. To a certain extent, you almost hate the failure more than you love the winning.
Yeah.
And then that brings us to you, Kayla. What is the best piece of advice or, one of the best pieces of advice you can give?
So I will say, though, to that, right? My coach always says that so to your comment, it's the gold in your shadow, right? So it is a thorn because you're geesh, I've got to give myself grace. If I had one word for 2025, for myself, it's grace. For myself and others, it's grace, because I certainly, definitely can appreciate what you shared. And so definitely give yourself grace. And so we deserve it. You deserve it. And I will say, though, those qualities are what got you here, right? And so that's that push and pull. And so we just have to recognize and give ourselves grace that it is just a project, and that, yesterday ended last night, and that you've gave it your all, even if it's not to your standard, right? So grace is extremely important, and I'm certainly a fellow learner because I need to give myself more grace and others. I think a piece of advice that I've recently, I would say most recently, because I've gotten a lot, and depending on where you are in your life and your career, and if you're in school or you're trying to figure out what's next, whatever you do, whatever I do, I would say, don't be a been there, done that type of person. Be a I'm going there, learning that type of person, right? Because if you ever had a conversation with someone, they're like, been there, done that. They already know it's like, no, this is a journey. It's not a destination. I'm going there, I'm learning that, right? So if there's something that you leave, I always say, leave a conversation. John Maxwell says, leave a conversation and just instantaneously say, what did I miss, right? Even if you think you heard it all, what did I miss? Review. The doing is in the reviewing. And so I just say constantly learn and be a fellow learner, because learning and growing is where you're going to really find out what you want, what you like, how you win every single day. And then just making small adjustments, right? Every adjustment you make is attributing to your greater success. And so I just say, don't be a been there, done that person. We don't like those people.
No, that's great. That is great advice. And then with that said, we started today, 9%. That was the number of women in construction. We talked about things we can do to try to change that. But what do you see realistically happening in the next 10 to 20 years? And I guess, maybe reiterate one more time what we can do to make sure that number goes up.
I think AmCon is a testament to what the future can and will be. I mean, what are our actual numbers? We're at least in the office, we're over 50%, I think. And in the field, working on it.
I think it's...
Our percentage is good. I don't know.
I would say it's in the office.
Yeah.
We're over 50. Over 50. And then counting, right? So the more things that we can do like this to celebrate women, and to get the word out there, I don't agree with the identity that, this is a man's world and that it's construction, and that's an old identity. The new identity is that we're going to break the ceilings, we're going to get the word out there, and that each move that we make and each conversation that we have and each email that we send and each podcast that we talk on reaches more people, and we inspire more people to have those conversations. And I think just the small decisions we've made as a company, AmCon, and also hires that we've made and kind of the outreach that we've had, I mean, it's a movement. Like, I have people coming up to me saying, like, wow, like, what you guys are doing is really cool. Like, I interviewed another female super the other day. And, we talked after, and she's like, it's so cool to see. And so the more people that we can inspire in those small decisions that we make, the better. But like you said, we need a lot of people on that mission with us. And so providing opportunities like this, and also, going into our own toolbox of network and having those conversations and taking a stand, right? Most recently, I had a conversation with my coach, and he's like, stand on it. Don't waver. And so that stuck with me, because when we are in a room and someone doesn't give us the gratitude or the grace or whatever it may be, speak up. Don't just agree and nod your head. Disagree. It's okay. That's how greatness is made. Disagree respectfully. I mean, we can be respectful and have honest harmony and do something really cool for 10, 20 years down the road. My projection is 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be, especially with women entering the workforce after post-college, with the cost of living and everything that, we're facing right now, it's a 2-income household. And so that is requiring women to get out there and, put their skills in front of folks that provide the opportunities like construction, like architectural, like engineering. And so I think it's just getting the word out there.
No, well said. Well said. So do you guys have any final comments or thoughts?
No, I think this is a big industry, and where there's a lot of openings, a lot of opportunities. I think, like I said earlier, when people think construction, they might just think the field side, but it's all inclusive. It's office, it's field, it's estimating, project management, leading a company. We're trying to go to career fairs. We're trying to get out there. I think whether you're in it now, you don't have to go to school for this to be in this career. You can pivot at any time, and then I think you can be a journalist. You can have work at the gym and then still come and do it. And then everything from being a subcontractor to being an architect to being an engineer. It's huge. The opportunities are huge. We're here to answer questions. I feel like
Yes.
anytime anyone wants to talk to me about it, I'm always like, yeah.
Thank you for doing this, and thank you for building this great new club. We are always in AmCon's debt, and just like we became the Boys and Girls Club of Metro North, AmCon now, we're very happy to keep working together and hopefully break barriers together.
Thank you, Anthony.
so much.
Appreciate it very
guys.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.